Okay, it looks like almost everyone's been admitted that's trying to join in. So we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Russell. I am the high school assistant principal here at Pinecrest Sloan Canyon. And I am so excited to have with us today Mr. Lindemuth. He is our college and career coordinator. And so he is in charge of our dual enrollment program here at Pinecrest Sloan Canyon. So I'm going to hand it over to him to do the presentation. If you do have questions during the presentation, please throw them in the chat and I will try to chime in with those questions for him as necessary. And then we will have a question and answer session at the end in case anyone has any follow-up questions. So thank you all, and I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Lindemuth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Lindemuth. I am the dual enrollment coordinator here at Pinecrest Sloan Canyon. I'm going to go through the presentation tonight. Hopefully, this is going to answer a lot of your questions. Please don't be upset if we don't answer your questions right away, mainly because some of your questions may get covered in some of the slides, and we do have quite a few. So thank you for joining us on a Friday evening. So we'll get moving and start talking about it. So what exactly is dual enrollment? Our dual enrollment program here is a little different than maybe some other programs that you might be familiar with. What happens here is students that are in our dual enrollment program, they take classes here at Pinecrest, and then they also attend college classes at CSN while they're still enrolled. So they are dually enrolled. They are enrolled here at Pinecrest, and they're also enrolled as college students at CSN. And the way that the high school classes that they take at Pinecrest earn them high school credit. And then the courses that they take at CSN earn them college credit on the CSN campus. And then that credit gets converted to high school credit that goes on their Pinecrest transcript. So the way it works here, students come in, they take anywhere between, I would say, 2 to 4 classes. They need to take a minimum of 2 classes on campus with us, and then they'll take up to 4 or 5 classes on the CSN campus. So they'll come in, they'll leave in the morning, and they will head off to CSN, take their classes. Some of them take the classes in person, some of them take the classes online. So what this does is it gives our students the opportunity to still be high school students, still be involved with everything on the high school campus, while getting a head start on their college credits and also getting a head start on the experience of being on a college campus as a college student. So why would you choose dual enrollment? A lot of options, really. It obviously, we just mentioned, it allows you to receive credit, both high school and college credit at the same time. When you take the courses at CSN, the college courses are only 1 semester long, as opposed to a full year. So that allows you to take more classes in a shorter period of time. So when you take a semester of, say, math, when you take a, why am I zoning out here? Let's say you take calculus at CSN, you're actually getting a whole year's worth of high school math credit in 1 semester. So what that allows students to do is it allows students that are really motivated to be able to earn not only their high school diploma, but earn an associate's degree from CSN at the same time that they graduate high school. Now, you've got to be really motivated to do that. You have to be able to take extra classes during the semester, as well as some classes in the summer. But that is a possibility. And so scheduling wise, you enjoy the flexibility of being able to choose when your classes are. You still have to allow for the fact that you have high school classes here, so you can't schedule classes too early over at CSN, but there's nothing that says you have to take your English class over at CSN by 2 o'clock every day. If you want to take a night class at CSN, you're welcome to do that. When you're at CSN, you are a full-fledged college student. You get to take advantage of all of the things that are there that the college students can take advantage of. So the tutoring that's available for free at a CSN campus, any other counseling resources, the writing center, anything that they have at CSN is yours to use. Now, I know that a lot of our students here enjoy the fact that as a dual enrollment student, they get to participate in free dress, so they don't have to wear their uniform. All that we ask is that I've got a fancy lanyard somewhere that says dual enrollment, and every student has to wear them. But other than that, they don't have to wear the Pinecrest uniform when they're in dual enrollment student. Okay, so do I qualify to apply? So when we look at just sheer numbers, we're looking at your GPA, we're looking at your courses. Are you on track to graduate? So what we're looking at is realistically, you should have a 2.75 unweighted GPA if you want to apply for the dual enrollment program. The lowest that we would accept would be a 2.5. But I'm going to tell you that the best way to think about this is you need to be college ready if you're going to take college classes in the dual enrollment program. So if you don't think you're ready to take an AP level class, I'm not sure if you're ready to take a college class at CSN. So when we look at just numbers, GPA, 2.5 is the minimum, 2.75 is preferred. You have to be on track to graduate. You need to be passing all of your core classes. So if you are credit deficient right now, it's going to be very difficult for you to be admitted to the program, because you're going to have your hands full taking the classes that you need to take in your junior and senior year. You're not going to have time to be making up other credits. You need to be at a minimum level math-wise of geometry by the end of your sophomore year. So you must have passed Algebra 1 and geometry. And then you cannot have any behavior, disciplinary, or attendance concerns. Well, why is that? If you have behavior concerns, we can't turn you loose on a college campus with no supervision. And I'll give you an example of why, one of the reasons why we wouldn't do that. There is another college in town that's not CSN that will not do the dual enrollment program with high school students because they've had too many issues with high school students on their campus. And so we can't have students out representing Pinecrest that can't act like adults. So behavior, discipline, if you're not attending school here at Pinecrest, what's the likelihood of you attending school at CSN? So those are things that we do look at. All right, how do we apply? So part of the application process is step one. You need to actually apply to CSN by March 10th. On our website, we'll have a link to CSN. You click on it, and then you will apply to CSN. What that does is it will create an NSHE number for you, NSHE, Nevada Higher Education. You get a little number, and that's what we need to be able to, and that number will stick with you for the rest of your days, because anytime that you take a class at any Nevada college, that number sticks with you. So you need to apply to CSN by March 10th. It takes a little bit to get that number back. So that's why that's the first step. Then you'll need a teacher recommendation. Now, what we're doing this year is there will be a form that you will choose a teacher that you want to fill out a recommendation form, and you're going to choose a teacher that can speak to your ability to be successful in a college class. So think about who you want to do your recommendation. You'll fill out a form, and then they'll fill out a form and send that recommendation to me and let me know if they think that you're college ready. There's a Pinecrest application that's online for the actual dual enrollment program that needs to be completed by March 17th. There is an application essay, and that needs to be completed by March 24th. And then there's been changes over at CSN. CSN used to use an AccuPlacer as a placement test. They're no longer offering the AccuPlacer, so we had to adjust testing for certifications. So we'll be using the CERT diagnostic, which is an indicator of college readiness. And so we don't have our next one scheduled yet. We will put that date out. It's the same CERT test if you're a high school student that you have been taking throughout your years at Pinecrest. So on the next test, what we're going to be looking at are your English scores and your reading scores. And we need to see a minimum of 18 in both of those. Now, I will tell you that the national benchmark for college readiness on the ACT is 18 in English and a 23 in reading. So if you are looking to figure out if you're ready, college ready, those are actually the benchmark numbers. We're looking at an 18 in English and an 18 in reading to be eligible to apply for the program. Now, on the math side, CSN has a math program in place called ALEX, and you'll need to log on and take an ALEX test through CSN by March 31st. And you'll need to be a CSN student by then, because they're going to require your NSHE ID. Now, on the bright side, how much is it going to cost you? Little to nothing. Pinecrest covers the cost of tuition for your required courses. So that means that if you are a student in the dual enrollment program, you get free college classes. So required courses we go over when you're in the program, but basically what we do is we look for the equivalent of the high school classes that you need to graduate. And you're going to be taking a lot of those classes during your first 3 semesters at CSN. So your junior year, if you're in the program, is pretty regimented. We pretty much pick, I want to say 7 out of the 8 classes that you have to take, because they directly line up with classes that you need for high school graduation. Once you get into senior year, you have a lot more wiggle room. There's a lot more classes that you can take, but we cover the classes that you need for graduation. And then as a senior, we tell you, we cover an exact amount of credits. Now, for people that want to pursue an associate's degree, we're going to cover, if you are going to pursue an associate's degree, there's going to be a lot of semesters that you'll probably need to take 5 classes. So we will tell you the 4 classes that we'll cover, and then usually the extra class, that's a class that you would have to cover. And then students and their families are responsible for the costs of books. So any classes that you take outside of the 4, you cover. If you take class in the summer, you cover those as well. Something I don't have on the slide because I can't guarantee that it's always there, but our Pinecrest Foundation has offered scholarships throughout the years. And so this past fall, students were able to apply for scholarships through the Pinecrest Foundation, and students were awarded anywhere between $500 and $1,000, and they were able to use that money for books and for extra classes. So there are opportunities to actually earn extra money for school as well. We just can't guarantee that it's always going to be there because that comes from an outside source. But our sister school over at Cadence has had Pinecrest Foundation scholarships every year, and this is our first year, and we had that first semester, and we're waiting to see if there'll be more money available in the spring, and then again, hopefully again in the fall. So I don't know if anybody's seen, or maybe you have some family members that are taking classes at CSN, but CSN classes right now, if you factor in all the fees, are up to about $132 a credit. So we're talking about just under $400 for a 3-credit class. So if you look at all the classes that you would be taking throughout your junior year, that would save you $3,200. So it's quite the savings being in the dual enrollment program. So this is probably our biggest roadblock for a lot of students and their families. How will I get there? Our school does not provide transportation to CSN. Students are allowed to drive if they're old enough. Most of our students get rides with their parents. Students can carpool with other parents if they have permission. But I would say right now, that's probably one of the biggest challenges. And the reason I say that is CSN Henderson campus is probably 20 to 30 minutes away from our campus. One of the things that we got a lot more flexible with in the past at our sister school, they had pretty much only allowed their students to take classes at CSN Henderson, which made more sense because they're not that far away from the campus. Well, depending on where you live and where our campus is. Sometimes it's just as easy to get to a different CSN campus as it is to get to CSN Henderson. So one of the things that we allow our students to do is that they're allowed to register for classes on any of the CSN campuses. So if there's a class that you want to take that's at Charleston campus or at the North campus, you're welcome to do that. But regardless of where the campus is, you're always going to be responsible for your own transportation. Now, I will tell you one of the other challenges is that what we've seen this year, the number of in-person classes has dropped dramatically. So from a transportation standpoint, that's great because you don't have to drive to the campus. But for a lot of students that really want the in-person experience, especially in a math or a science class, there's not as many offerings available in person. So it's been a really interesting experience for our students. I have some students that love the fact that they're taking more online classes. And then I have others that are disappointed because they wish they could take more classes in person. So I would say right now, those are two pretty big challenges with CSN. So if you get accepted, what happens next? So I meet with all the students. We basically go over the classes that you need to take at CSN. I can tell you this year that your first semester, if you were in our program if you were a junior this year, the juniors, their first semester, they all took a class that was, I think it was called ALS 100, which was college life skills. They took English 101, they took a math course. And now, of course, because I'm on the spot, I can't remember what the fourth course was. It'll pop into my head in about an hour and a half. But we basically sit down with every single student and let them know like what the classes are that they need to take. So there won't be a lot of questions as to what you need to enroll in. We set up a registration event with the advisor from CSN. We're very lucky right now because our students right now, our dual enrollment students, have a dedicated advisor at CSN. So we actually have one advisor that handles our whole program. And so I'm hoping that as we double in size, that we'll still, be able to continue. And actually, our advisor is the same advisor that handles the Pinecrest Cadence students. So our advisor that we have at CSN is phenomenal, and she knows, she knows how to deal with high school students that are in a dual enrollment program. So one of the things you'll be able to do as a high school student is you can actually sign off paperwork that allows, that designates like a third party to have access to certain things. It's actually a requirement that you sign me up as a third party because I need to be able to get access to your transcripts and records and things like that. But you also can have your parents involved so that if you want to have your parents as part of a meeting with the advisor, you can do that. So you can actually go over, have your parents involved with the advisor. At the end of the day, though, the final schedule has to be approved by us. And the reason being is that we need to make sure that you're enrolling in classes that not only earn you college credit at CSN, but also earn you high school credit. And so just to give you like a side example, right now, all of our juniors are taking a science, and there were a lot of them, but there were very specific science classes that the students were allowed to take. And so I had some students that wanted to take a class that was called Bio 190, and it was molecular biology, which sounded like an amazing class, but there is no high school equivalent. And so had they taken that class, they would not have satisfied their high school science requirement and would have had to take yet another science class. So that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that the classes that you're taking line up with your high school graduation, because our graduation requirements at the end of the day have to line up with the state of Nevada. Now, when you're scheduling, you have to plan your CSN classes after Pinecrest classes. So my experience after this, the last 6 months, is that no student should schedule a class before 11 a.m. And that's so that you can attend the number of classes that you need to attend here, and it could vary, and I'll go into that in a little more detail later. But you also want to give yourself enough time to not just get over there, but to not feel like you're rushing from this campus to the next one. It shouldn't feel like you're sprinting into your, your 11 o'clock class because you got out of here at 10:20. So you want to give yourself enough time so that you're comfortable getting over there, because where you park may be nowhere near where your actual class is. Okay, so you're required to take a total of 6 courses. That's what a high school requirement is. You're enrolled in a minimum of 6 classes. So depending on where you place in math, that might mean that you take 2 classes on the Pinecrest campus and 4 classes at CSN, or 3 classes on the Pinecrest campus and 3 classes at CSN. It depends on where you place in math. If you place into math to where you're at a level of what's the equivalent of Algebra 2 honors, then we would enroll you in math here. One of the changes that occurred at CSN last year was that they eliminated some lower level math classes, specifically Math 95 and Math 96. And those would have been the equivalent of like an Algebra 2 course here. And since they don't offer that, we offer that here. And so we've got options. If you place into a math class high enough that you can take at CSN, then you'll end up taking 4 classes your first semester at CSN. Otherwise, it's either 4 and 2 or 3 and 3. If you're taking extra classes, when I say extra, maybe you're taking that 5th class because you're working towards your associate's degree, or you're somebody who at the end of high school would like to go to a college that's out of state, and you realize now that that college requires you to take 2 years of a foreign language, so you're going to take a foreign language now. Those extra fees and the extra class, they need to be paid upfront. So when you register for class, you will see like the payment is due at this time. You'll need to pay specifically for that course upfront. We don't get involved with payment on money that you owe. We get billed directly for the classes that we let them know that we're covering, and then they bill you for the balance. So if you're taking a 5th class on your account, you'll see a balance for that class. You have to follow CSN rules on when that class needs to be paid for. One of the classes, so just so you're aware, one of the classes that you are going to be enrolled in when you're on the high school campus at Pinecrest is a study skills class. That's kind of part of our agreement that we have a class that we're able to offer you extra support. So all of our juniors take, at the very least, they take study skills. Some juniors are taking study skills, math, and then an extra elective. Some students are taking a CTE course. Some students are still enrolled in, I have some students that are in a foreign language because they felt like it would be easier to take that here. Or maybe they've already taken 1 year and they only need the 2nd year. And in that case, I encourage them to finish the foreign language here. But that's what you're kind of in a range of 2 to 4 classes. But if you're in a CTE program and you want to continue, we really do our best to try and structure that schedule so that our dual enrollment students have a chance to complete the CTE program that they're in. And if not, you can always circle back and take CTE courses during your senior year on campus if you're interested. But we do our best to try and let you take as much as you want to take. Sometimes logistically it's not possible, and sometimes we have the conversation where we say you have to make a choice for this year, because sometimes it's just not possible given the size of our student body and the number of classes that we have available, that sometimes you can't squeeze it all in. But we'll have those conversations as they come up. Let's see, I covered the fees. So this is another thing. Juniors, so if you look ahead, if you actually look at CSN and see when their start dates are, the start date at CSN is at usually 2 weeks later than the start date for Pinecrest for Sloan Canyon. And so what we do is we run a boot camp during that time, where we basically kind of have a, college 101, college readiness. Basically, we're gonna have a college readiness seminar. We really won't get into that until, near the end of the year, but that's something that you can expect, and that you will have a responsibility outside of your 2 periods during those first few weeks. And so it won't once we get through the boot camp, then it'll be like a regular schedule where you'll come in for your 2 to 4 periods. And then when your Pinecrest high school classes are done, you will sign out and leave. I see a question in here that I want to answer. Do we have to take a CTE course if we're in dual enrollment? The answer is no. When a lot of you, if you're a sophomore, I think your freshman year, you were required to enroll in a CTE course. If you're in a CTE program that you're enjoying and you want to finish, I highly encourage you to finish that program. But you're not required to take a CTE course if you don't want to stay in it. So that is an option for you. Okay. These are probably some of the things that you really need to understand, because I will tell you that the last 6 months for me, watching our students go through dual enrollment have been eye-opening. And I think not just for me, but for them as well. There's definitely a difference between high school and college. So I think that I want everyone to really think about that and understand that, because I will be honest with you when I say I'm not, put the whether you're qualified on paper to the side. When you learn about everything that goes into dual enrollment, I want you as a student to sit down and think about with someone at home, is this program a good fit for me? Because I will tell you, it's not a great fit for everyone. And that's not to say that you can't be successful, but based off of whether or not you enjoy taking classes online, whether or not you are really driven to motivate yourself. And I'll go into this things and you'll kind of understand where I'm coming from. So when you're in high school, our job here is to look out for you. Okay. We give you guidance. We help you if you're kind of going in the wrong direction. Like I come here every day with the thought that I'm going to help somebody with something. And I will tell you that it is not that way in college. The students are expected to take responsibility for themselves. And you are 100% responsible to deal with the consequences of your actions. And I'll give you a small example that we experienced this year. There are teachers that have deadlines. And when you take a class online, there are very firm deadlines on when things are due. So when you take a test, they will say the test window opens at this time. You have between this time and this time to start the test. Once you start the test, you have X number of minutes to complete the test. And when the test is over, you will need to upload a copy of your work by this time. And let me tell you that when you don't upload your work by the time that it's due, it's a 0. I have multiple students that lost letter grades because they didn't upload something on time. They did all the work, but they didn't follow the directions and thought nothing of it really. Thought, hey, I was supposed to upload this by 4:30. I got it in by 4:40. Will you still accept it? The answer was no. Across the board, deadlines were firm. So I'm just letting you know that college is not warm and fuzzy. And so you absolutely have to be responsible enough to read your emails that the school sends you, follow the syllabus that the professor gives you. Your professor may or may not go over their syllabus with you the first day. They might just hand it to you, because I've seen it both ways. Some professors will take the syllabus and they'll let you know, hey, here's how the class is structured. We're going to do A, B, C, and D. You're going to take these 2 exams. You're going to write these 4 papers. Here's the due dates. This is the stuff that you're responsible for. The tests will be on this reading material. And some teachers just hand you the syllabus and say, you have a test on this day, you have a test on this day, you have a paper on this day, and a paper on this day. And then here's the final. So that leaves a lot on you as a student. And so when I tell you that you're responsible For a lot of that, you have to be prepared to take responsibility. And as a counselor, as a parent, times I'd like to reach out and figure out like what's going on with my kid in your class. The chances of you getting a return email on that is very slim, because it's college and I will tell you first off, most of the professors do not know that you are a high school student unless you tell them. And the other half don't care. So I just want everyone to be aware of that. I'm not saying that to discourage you, but I want you to be aware, because what I don't want is for it to be a completely shocking experience, because I think that that's one of the things that happens sometimes, is if students aren't aware that they're responsible for work and how to do it, it can be a not great experience. So classes in high school, students are usually told in class what they need to learn from the readings. Classes in college, it's up to the students to read and understand the assigned material. And then lectures and assignments proceed from the assumption that the students have already done so. Now, one of the things that I always encourage students to do, professors will tell you they have office hours, is that when you're struggling, is go speak to your instructor. And you would be surprised the low number of people that actually take advantage of a professor's office hours. That's like the one chance you have to let a professor know that who you are and that you're interested in what you're learning and that you're in their class. So I always encourage students to take advantage of that and speak with their professors. At the very least, let them know who you are so that they can put a name, put a face to the name. All right, there's a couple questions in here, so I want to see if I can answer them.
I have a few direct message ones too, Mr. Lindemuth, if you're okay with me reading some of them as well.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and read them, just so I don't know if we're going to read the same things. Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. So these are the ones that were directed to me. So how does it work with out-of-state credit or colleges? So if an out-of-state college were to accept the CSN credits?
So one of the most frustrating things, I would say as a high school counselor, and honestly, even over on CSN, over on their end, is there's no way of really knowing what transfers and what doesn't. And so every CSN course is logged into the Nevada state catalog. So all of the classes that you take at CSN are transferable directly to a Nevada college. Most classes transfer to outside colleges if they accept transfer credit. Where it gets really sticky is that when you take a bio class, so we're going to take a science class, and you took a class in biology, and it's not bio 101, it's bio 189, which you took it towards your associate's degree. But then you transfer to Michigan State, and they end up accepting your bio class, but they really, all they did was give you elective credit for it, which is good. It saved you a lot of money. It's 3 less elective credits that you have to take, but you didn't meet the science requirement that you have in their program. And so now you're taking another science class. So that's what I see most often when it comes to transfer credits. It's very rare that a class just doesn't transfer as anything and that you get 0 credit for. What happens is it most often doesn't count the way that you thought it was going to count or the way that you want it to count. When we start talking about lower level classes, like very basic intro level classes, those are the classes that are most universally accepted. So a lot of the classes that you take when you're a junior in the dual enrollment program, your English 101, your COM 101, that was the 4th class. See, didn't take me an hour and a half. The COM 101, your speech class, those are basic courses that almost every student takes at every campus. English 101, English 102, Communications 101. Those are the classes that we see and usually slot right into the same space at another school. But unfortunately, the default answer is we have no way of knowing, whether or not the college that you're interested in transferring your credits to is going to accept it and how they will accept it. I usually encourage, especially if it's, some classes we're obviously getting up to speed now. We're going to have our first graduating class next year. We're in the process now this spring. You'll start seeing colleges come onto our campus to meet with our students. those are the types of questions that we like to ask the reps when they come in is does your school accept transferable credit? And when you have specific questions, though, you can always call the school and ask to speak to someone who handles transfer credit to see like what types of classes they take and if they transfer. So that's something that I encourage people to do, because unfortunately, with the number of schools that people apply to, there's just no straight answer. It's not a one size fits all.
Okay, awesome. And then for the next question, for the ALEKS placement test, will we be taking this on our own time, or will we have to go into CSN to take it?
So the way that the ALEKS, and I'm going to look, I believe that there's a live link on our website to the ALEKS testing that'll actually explain it a little better, but you can actually take the ALEKS placement from home. It's an online test. If you don't have the correct hardware, like if you don't have a computer that's capable of running the test, and you'll know right away when you try and get in there, you can actually set up a time to take the test on CSN's campus. But last year I did not have anyone who was unable to take the test. And really, at the end of the day, if you can't take it from home, you're welcome to come in here. We'll find a place for you, and you can take the placement test, after school.
Awesome. And this next question I'm going to take, are we allowed to carpool with other students that are headed to the CSN campus? So the answer is depends. We do have to have students following Nevada state law. So it really depends on how old they are and what the requirements are on their license. So that would be a conversation between your parents and yourselves on what your license allows and who you're allowed to drive at your age. And then the next, we answered the CTE one, right?
We did.
So will the CSN classes have older high school graduated students?
Yes. So depending on, and this is one of the things that you'll find if you're trying to schedule your own classes, you have no idea who's going to be in that class with you. You could end up scheduling a bunch of classes with people that you're actually on campus with now. You may end up in classes with people from Cadence, but CSN is a large system, and so they have a ton of students, and so chances are, yes, you'll be taking classes with a mixed group. If there's a Tuesday, Thursday class at 1 o'clock for English 101, that class is open to anybody who sees that it's on the schedule. So whoever registers that for that class and fills those seats, so you could be with anyone.
And then what can someone do to study or prepare for college courses?
Well, that was a question I was hoping you were going to skip. I would say that realistically, the study skills that you've been learning now are going to be directly applicable to your college courses. I think the biggest difference is really learning what it is that you need to study. How you study wouldn't necessarily be different, unless right now, if you have issues, taking tests now, if your study skills are poor, they're not going to magically get better when you go over to CSN. So I think step one is identifying like where your weaknesses are and trying to work on those. But I think personally, the best thing that you can do is really figure out what it is you need to study. And I can tell you that, like, I had some students struggling in math that I felt a lot better after they had conversations with the instructor to get an understanding of where they were coming from and what the instructor expected of them. So I think that's truly one of the keys to be successful, is really getting an understanding of what it is that you're responsible for knowing. And that's, like we said, teachers in high school will tell you that you've got to work a lot harder to get that information on a college campus.
And I'm going to jump in here too with Mr. Lindemuth. The biggest thing is self-advocacy. He's talked about it before that, you need to speak with the college professors and use those office hours. But I'm going to reiterate it one more time. Those office hours are crucial in getting that face time with your professor, getting to know them, having them understand you. This is going to be your one-on-one time. There's not a lot of the walking around the room and helping you one-on-one in the classroom like in a high school. So if you want that one-on-one instruction with your professor, you have to go to office hours. And it is so crucial in understanding the classwork.
There's two quick ones that I want to answer. The first question was, will students be able to stay in the Pinecrest Conservatory and take electives? The answer is yes. That's no different than the students that are in CTE courses. It's one of those where one of the things that we do is we look at students once we are able to admit students, we kind of look at the students that are in the program and the classes that they want to continue to take. And then I will give Ms. Russell a shout out for this. Ms. Russell spent a lot of time last year working a master schedule around the dual enrollment students so that they could continue with the things that they were passionate about that still took place on this campus. And so we're going to do our best to do that again. I will tell you, there's just no way to please every single person, especially now that we're going to be double in size in the program. But we absolutely encourage you to, if you're in the conservatory, to continue. And we do our best to make sure that we, schedule in such a way that you could still take those classes and still be able to take classes at CSN. And then the second question I wanted to answer was, can dual enrollment students take foreign language classes at CSN? Absolutely, you can. If you need it so just so everybody's on the same page here, you do not need to have 2 years of a foreign language to graduate high school. That is not a Nevada high school graduation requirement. However, many colleges that are outside of Nevada do require 2 years of a foreign language for admission. So I always encourage students to do that. Now, if you're at the point where you haven't taken 2 years of a foreign language and you want to do it now, you absolutely can. But I will say that the difficulty level is a little, I'd say it's ramped up a little higher, because you won't have to take 2 full years of the foreign language at CSN. You'd actually have to take 2 semesters, because each semester is worth a year's worth of high school credit. So you absolutely could take an intro level. And the good news is, I was going to say Spanish because that's what we offer, but realistically, the biggest complaint is, I wish I could take a different foreign language than the one that you offer. Well, on a college campus, you have a minimum of like 6 or 7 choices. So that is definitely something that is open to you, but that would be one of those classes that is outside of the classes that we require and pay for. So you would be responsible for payment for that course.
I want to jump in here too, Mr. Lindemuth, and kind of piggybacking on this and the conservatory question is, the one thing I really want students and families to be aware of is we have a lot of students who they are very involved, they are very interested in lots of topics, but what we find is when they're going into dual enrollment and they're trying to do 3, maybe 4 specialized programs, they're spreading themselves very thin. And because they're not only jumping from, sophomores to juniors, they're jumping from sophomores to college students. So there's this very, very big leap and a lot more time commitment of independent work time. And then there's trying to stay in conservatory, robotics, student council, foreign language. And so we just want to make sure that when they're looking at it, they're having a very realistic conversation about what can they maintain, because we don't want them to overcommit and to struggle in their classes, to be overwhelmed, especially that first semester. So really thinking about what are you allowing your student to enroll in terms of CTE. And now our students are usually very capable of taking one specialty area class in their dual enrollment program. It's when they jump into the 3 programs or more that it really becomes a stressor on their time and it stretches them really thin. So keeping that in mind when your students registering and requesting these classes, to really think about it.
Did you have any other questions that you wanted me to cover?
There one more question, will IEP programs still be offered?
So I think the short answer is yes and no. When I say no, I mean the way that if you have an IEP or a 504, the way that it's handled in high school is different than the way that it's handled in college. And so if you're taking courses on the CSN campus, anything involving an IEP or a 504 is completely handled by CSN. They have a specific department that handles it. So whatever you have on paper, the way that we handle it here may differ from the way that it's handled there, because high school accommodations versus college are different. So what we do is, if you are accepted into the program and you have an IEP or a 504, what we do is we then refer you over to the resource center at CSN, and then they take it from there as far as you turn over your paperwork, and then they let you know like how the accommodations work on the college campus. It's a tough question because I don't have direct, and I will say this is one of those things that I want all students and parents to be aware of. When you send your student to CSN as part of the program, we lose contact and, more importantly, control over anything that goes on over at the CSN campus. So when a teacher has an issue with when a student has an issue with an instructor, when that happens here as a counselor, I can have a parent-teacher conference with a student, with the teacher, with a parent. We can't do that on a college campus. And so be aware that there is a level of control that we all lose when students are taking full-time classes at CSN, because CSN, while we're in partnership with them, we're not employed at CSN, so we don't have the level of access that we're used to having when we're here on the Pinecrest campus.
There was a follow-up question on that, Mr. Lindemuth. So if for example, the 2 classes taken at Pinecrest will continue with those accommodations, and then we have to pursue with the IEP accommodations for the other classes. So yes, so when you're at Pinecrest and you're taking your Pinecrest courses, the IEP accommodations that you have set in place will stay in place. It's when any classes at CSN, you have to work with their student, I think they call it the Student Success Center, right? You'll have to work with them to present your IEP to them and how it's translated into college courses. So those accommodations can look different from the Pinecrest campus to the CSN campus based on their legal requirements at the college level.
Okay, I'm going to go on through here. Just a couple more differences, and you can take the time to read through these as well. Teachers in high school, you're used to mostly acquiring facts and skills, whereas in college, you're responsible for thinking through and applying what you've learned. Tests in high school, mastery can be seen as the ability to reproduce what you were taught. In college, mastery is key, but tests often cover more material and require more depth of knowledge. I will tell you that, from a test standpoint, a lot of things, what I see is you'll see a teacher let you know, a professor let you know that you have an exam and that they're covering the first 6 chapters, and that's pretty much all you know. So you better know everything on those 6 chapters, because you have no idea what they're going to ask from those 6 chapters. They may not ask you questions from all 6 chapters, but you're responsible for anything that comes up. So anything that's covered can be covered. So it does make it is more difficult. As far as grades go in high school, yeah, there's definitely effort is rewarded in high school as opposed to college, where it's all about results. And I think I already shared the example with you of students got correct answers, but the test was actually more weighted on the work that they turned in to support their answers, and therefore their grade was they failed the exam, all because the results of turning the things in on time didn't take place, and therefore all the other effort was worthless, because at the end of the day it was the result that mattered. So keep that in mind. Okay, so here are our deadlines. Right now, we want you to apply by March 10th to make sure that you get in the system so that you can get your entry number, because I need your entry number when you fill out your Pinecrest dual enrollment application. So the actual Pinecrest dual enrollment application is due March 17th. There will be an essay that's going to be due on the 24th. There will be a recommendation form that's also due on the 20th. Actually, that's the one thing I didn't update. That's also everywhere else, but on this slide, it's due March 17th. So I'll need to go back and fix that because it's everywhere else that you'll see it. If you go on the website or any other paperwork, the teacher recommendation form is due by March 17th. And the reason being that we need it on the 17th is because we need to give the teachers the time to actually write the recommendation. Someone had asked if you can get more than one recommendation. That's not necessary, mainly because we're looking for, if we opened it up to multiple recommendations, we'd have multiple people asking for, 4 or 5 recommendations, and that's not fair on the teachers that we have. Because one of the things that we changed this year was what we really wanted was teachers that you've worked with to speak on your ability to, on your ability in the classroom. And so we're going to limit it to just one recommendation. And it's not a letter. You're actually, when you fill out the form, you'll see it. You're actually just filling out who you're requesting to do the recommendation for you. And the essay. So all of these things that I'm talking about, these are all going to have links. They're not going to get posted this weekend. So I want everybody to take a deep breath, because if I have 87 emails on Monday that say where are the links, they're not coming until next week, I promise you. That the essay, all the links will be there, and the essay will tell you exactly what the essay is about when it gets posted. So the other 2 big things are going to be placement, because I think right now, like, you're aware of what you have to fill out, you're aware of the GPAs. The 2 biggest things probably are going to, that I think are going to, at least in the past, are placement tests. Placement tests have really been the difference for a lot of students and whether they've gotten in the program in the past or not. And so we'll release, I don't think we have a date set yet for the spring cert, but I can tell you that, like I mentioned before, the national benchmarks for college readiness on an ACT are 18 in English and 23 in reading. So what we're looking at is a minimum of 18 in English and a minimum of 18 in the reading, just to qualify you to be eligible for entry into the program. And then basically same thing with the math scores. Your math score won't disqualify you, but it will kind of tell us where you are in the eyes of a college as far as what level math class that you're going to take. And so that would dictate what courses you would take. Same with the English. And so the link that I put up there is actually the link that's on our school website that goes to dual enrollment. So all of the forms will be posted on Monday. Okay, so this is a question I'm shocked that no one asked this question in the chat. Dual credit versus AP, what's better? Because we get that a lot. That was actually a really popular question last year, which is why we created this slide. So before I even go through these, I mean, realistically, the difference between an AP class and a college class, you're taking an AP class, you're taking, if you're not familiar with advanced placement, some of you have already taken AP classes. You're taking a college level class inside of a high school classroom. So at the end of the day, when someone sees a transcript, they can read that transcript and see that you have gone through academic rigor in a high school setting. That's what an AP class is. Whereas when you take a dual credit class and then it appears on your transcript, they're seeing that you're getting high school credit on your transcript, and it's letting them know that you took that class at a college and also earned college credit. So you're seeing that you've already earned the college credit. So AP gives you the potential to earn college credit, where a dual credit class, you actually are guaranteed, if you pass the class, to earn the college credit. And so an AP class, advanced placement, if you're familiar, that you take the class, and regardless of what your grade is in the course, at the end of the year, you take an exam that dictates whether or not you earn college credit. And so basically you're putting all of your eggs into the exam basket for whether or not you earn college credit. Whereas when you take a dual credit class, it's already guaranteed credit. You've already earned it. And like we said, in most cases, most of it is transferable. And then this is like one of those fine print things here at the bottom where it says, passing an AP exam does not always ensure that college credit will be earned. Well, every school has a chart that they put out that basically tells you if you took this test and earned any of these scores, this is what it's worth. So every college, now for the most part, they're pretty standard, but they're not all the same. So if you get a 4 on an exam, a 4 at UNLV in psychology might not be the same as a 4 in an AP Psych exam at UCLA. So it differs school to school. So, but I think, the biggest takeaway from the two is that your actual college credit part is contingent upon the exam only. Oh, see, this summary already said what I said. Every college is different in terms of how they treat these courses, and policies are subject to change. So yeah, absolutely. You need to, if you are in that application process, like when you start researching schools, that's a good time to reach out and see, like, how do they handle AP courses? How do they handle dual credit courses? And I think that's it for the prepared slides. So if we have more questions, we have time to answer those.
There is one more that hasn't been answered yet. If a CSN class is not passed, how will the high school credit be made up for graduation?
That's a really good question, whoever asked that. Okay, so this is one of those situations where there can be two answers. I'll give you a direct example. Let's say that you, in the second semester of your junior year, fail English 102. English 102 is the equivalent of your English 12 honors course that you could have taken in the high school classroom. So you have two options. If you would like to replace the F on your transcript with a better grade and make that F go away, you would have to retake English 102 at CSN in order to earn the high school credit and make your F go away. If you just wanted to make up the high school credit, you could then, as a credit retrieval course, take English 12. And then your actual high school transcript would show that you took English 102 and failed it, and that you took English 12 honors and passed it. Those are the official two answers to that question. Do we have any other questions? I really appreciate everybody sticking around. It's not easy to sit through an hour presentation on a Friday night. So I really do appreciate everybody that logged in, and anybody who, after the fact comes through and watches the video. I want to say this, I know people are going to post some more questions, and I'll definitely go through and ask and answer those, but I just want to let anyone know that after this session ends, my email address is on this slide, and I'm pretty sure it's plastered all over the website. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to reach out and email me. I'm more than happy to answer any of these questions, because I'll be honest with you, when the first time I learned about this program before I came in as the coordinator, it's a lot. And so, you're going to have questions, and I will take the time to answer them via email. If you want to, schedule a phone call, or if you want to come in and meet, I'm more than happy to do any of that with you. So please keep in mind that some of you are going to have questions that come up, long after this meeting. Please don't hesitate to reach out. All right. Do you have to have current AP or honors classes to qualify, or as long as you meet the criteria, can you apply? You do not need to have current AP or honors classes to qualify. Yes, you can meet the criteria without those, but I will tell you that if you haven't taken an honors or an AP class, it's a significant jump up from what you're doing. I'm not telling you not to apply, and I'm not saying that you won't be successful. However, I think that you're going to have to really look at like how you study, what makes, how you handle your business, because I think that the difficulty level just ramps way up if you jump into a college class. Because I want you to think about it this way. The large majority of the people that you are going to take class with have taken 4 years of high school classes before they take the seat next to you in that class that you're sitting in. So they have twice as much high school experience and twice as much credit. They've been through more education than you have at that point. So that's why I'm saying it's a big jump up to go from not taking an honors class or an AP class. Does that mean that you can't be successful? No, of course you can be successful. But I think it's going to take a really focused effort on your behalf. What other questions do we have?
I had one other one in the DM, and it was, I think it's going back to making up if a class has failed. Can we take summer classes to remake the credit up? And if we took summer school and have extra credit for some classes, can we still walk for graduation?
I can't answer the graduation part because we haven't had a graduating class yet. So that's like a hypothetical situation that we haven't really had to sit down and think about. I'm assuming that you're talking about like on the back end if you don't pass a class, like at the very end. But let me tell you this. I will tell you that we wouldn't be, okay, let me see if I can word this correctly. We shouldn't be in a situation where we're sweating your graduation if you're in the dual enrollment program. And the reason that I say that is the way that the program is structured. This is a 2-year program, okay? You can only apply as a 10th grader. So anybody who's watching or thinking like, oh, maybe I'll do it after as a senior. No, we don't accept any applications other than from current 10th graders because it's a 2-year structured program. And I will tell you that the way that it's structured, you are going to hit most of your graduation requirements in junior year and the first half of senior year. So you should be meeting most of those like core class requirements earlier in the program than later so that you have this safety net. So that we shouldn't be sweating second semester of senior year. But if we're in a case, because I will tell you that if you don't do well the first year, we're going to sit down and we're going to look at, hey, is this the best program for me? Is this the best situation that I can be into? Because at the end of the day, we still have to look at, and this is my number one responsibility, I still have to make sure that you graduate high school. That's my number one job here is to make sure that you graduate high school. So we're going to do everything as far as helping you structure your classes so that you're not put in a sticky situation second semester of senior year. So I'm hoping that's a situation that we wouldn't get into. I hope that answers the question. I see another question. I'll answer this one. Would taking an Algebra 2 course over the summer be a bad idea? My instant answer is yes, but let me frame it this way. Let's say that you are currently you've taken Algebra 1 and you're a sophomore and you're in geometry. If you take an Algebra 2 course over the summer, I'm guessing that you want to take that Algebra 2 course because you want to take a more advanced math class as a junior. That more advanced math class, if you take Algebra 2, then you're basically saying, I want to take Algebra 2 because I want to take pre-calc. But I'm going to tell you that pre-calc is going to build so heavily on that Algebra 2 class that I'm going to then pose this question to you. How comfortable are you? How confident are you that you're going to learn everything that you need to learn in a year-long Algebra 2 class in 6 weeks? I wouldn't be that confident because usually summer classes are watered down. And usually summer classes are designed for, if you're taking them like at the high school level, they're designed for credit retrieval. They're usually not designed for original credit. And so even if you were to pass, do you really have all the skills that you have necessary to then be successful in a much higher level course? And if we're talking about dual enrollment, we're talking about like Math 126, college pre-calc. It's not an easy class. So that, in my professional opinion, it's not the best idea. Any other questions? Oh, I feel like we're wrapping it up.
Yeah, I don't see any more on my end, Mr. Lindemuth.
Okay.
Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who stuck around, and thank you to Mr. Lindemuth for this wonderful presentation. I know this was a lot of information, so we are gonna trim this down and then place the recording on our website. So it will be there for you to review. We can also post these slides separately, just so you can skip through the slides to the ones you were looking for. Like he said, his email's here, brian.lindemuth@pinecrestnv.org. Feel free to reach out to him, and if you're a student here, you can always leave a note in his up at the front desk for him, and he can reach out to you there as well. But if there are no more questions, we're going to close out the Zoom and wish you all a happy Friday and a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.